wasn't this great? Dune 2021, a lot better than the one with The Rock.
Wait, what?
Damn it! God damn it!
Huh? Want to run that by me again?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We have to start over. I watched Doom.
Oh,
Okay. I see. Damn you.
Didn't
Damn you
expect
to hell.
all the talking though. A lot less
sorry.
statements than I anticipated.
I will give these movies credit. There were a lot of dunes in these movies.
There were.
Yeah,
What?
Anakin Skywalker
Yeah.
would despise this movie.
Yes.
This would be his absolute nightmare.
I saw that meme format. It was like, "Hey, Anakin, you want to see Dune?" And it just zooms in on her face, and he's like, "The movie about sand." She's like, "Yeah." There's just no. He's like, "The fucking movie about sand."
Yes. Oh, I'll hold myself back. Yeah, I don't know. I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I didn't expect it. Well, I expected it to be good because of the director, but I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. Like, I was pleasantly surprised at how well they handled that movie.
Luckily, walked into the 2021 version with no expectations outside of. Because I haven't finished Blade Runner yet, and everything I saw from that movie, I was like, wow, this is just fucking good, and nobody gave a shit to go out and see it. Enemy is fucking fantastic. Prisoners is fucking fantastic.
Yes.
So that's really my only bar for walking into this, and I have been
You haven't seen Sicario or Arrival?
No, not yet.
Oh my god.
Yeah, those I'm gonna get on. Yeah, I'm gonna get on those. Especially this new TV, and I have left this new internal motivator to watch fucking movies.
I'm happy for you. You get to watch Sicario on a nice TV now.
Yes.
Man, I had to say, like, say what you want about the movie, but Zack Snyder's Justice League on this TV was a fucking sight to behold. Like, every time they had like a shot of like Themyscira or some kind of big establishing shot, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I had not seen the 84 version in a long enough time for all of this to be so completely fresh. And then when I sat down to watch the 84 version a couple hours ago, I was like, now I remember why I don't remember any of this, because it's handled with, man, how do I describe the breakneck pace of this very talky, very uneventful, yet incredibly fast-moving hodgepodge of bullshit that's Dune 1984.
This is assault on my senses.
It's a crime, some could say.
I'd say it's a crime. I did not finish the movie. I had to stop because I was like, okay, I am nowhere near that.
I actually tapped out when there was like a half hour left, which is funny because this movie, Dune 1984, is almost as long as Dune 2021 and covers
none of it.
1000% of the ground that the new one does.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They're trying to shove this huge, epic in scale story into a 2.5 hour movie, and you can't do that. Like, I give David Lynch a lot of credit because I've reacquainted myself with a lot of stuff I forgot from having not read Dune all that recently, and he did actually try his best to get a lot of that stuff in there. So did the writers, but they didn't have the technology for it.
Also, it's one of the most aggressively Lynchian things I've ever seen, and I've ever used it as a pejorative because, like, it helps nothing.
It's Lynchian, but it has none of the charm either. That's the problem.
It's gross, and awful to look at, and most of it's just patently uncomfortable. Also, dialogue in this movie. Okay, so remember how you described Aquaman as like people just show up, say their name, announce their intentions, and you're just like, cool, and it's just fun because it's a big fucking cartoon. It's silly. This movie is as serious as a heart attack and does the exact same thing, and it doesn't work at all. Like, people are like, hello, I am this guy from this place, and I'm going to do this thing, and someone goes, you're going to do that thing? He goes, I'm going to do this thing, and they go, that thing, and they go, this thing, and then that's how the conversation goes.
And then he has a 5-minute monologue in his head. Yeah.
Yes.
And invariably, someone will say the word spice in a whispered tone that kind of makes you uncomfortable.
There'll be a zoom in of a mouth with a really bad mustache.
It's comical. It's like, mother, I just had a waking dream. You asked me about my dreams. It's just
A waking dream, you say? A waking dream, mother. Here, this is my waking dream. Here it is, my waking
it's
dream. She goes, tell
it's
me the waking dream,
Shakespearean.
my son.
It's Shakespearean in the bad way, which
Yeah.
is a good segue into some things about this new one, which I would call Shakespearean in the best possible way.
Yes.
It's like it's all the heightened language and just like arch characters, but they give them this sense of like groundedness that I think is really important for an
Every,
audience.
everyone in the new one is cold and distant in the way that I anticipate humans to be
Mhm.
at like whatever fucking timeline this is in our fucking
8,000 years from
yeah,
now.
it's
Yeah.
like they're
Mhm.
they're basically aliens. Like I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yes.
I'm like, wow, we've adapted so far. Like nobody has guns. Technology is so far fucking advanced that it looks primitive and it looks so simple and just straightforward and indifferent. Um, and like everyone's very touchy feely and like everyone's very intimate and like the way everyone
Mhm.
talks is almost robotic, but it works because you look at everything around them and you go like, yeah, this is just kind of how things are now.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
But well,
man,
at the same time, like it feels like things have cycled backwards as well. Like
yes,
we've gone over this many times. We've been where we are now many times before, and now we're back to a place that we've been before as well. And it's just like this sense of it's another time that is familiar but also unfamiliar.
Well, I wish I could
At once.
remember the name of it, but it's something from the novels that it doesn't really get mentioned until later in the series, but there was a jihad against thinking machines. And
oh, I
like,
did read this somewhere. Like
yeah,
that
yeah,
there was like a big war against like complex machinery and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
about
yeah.
man-made thinking machines. And that,
Terminator in space, essentially, to
mhm.
really like just like simplify it, overly
Yeah, well,
simplify it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
But
mean,
so
it
they looked
it
at the
was
curve
man
and went,
destroying the robots.
right about
mhm.
there's where we get fucked. Like,
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with why it feels like it's rolled back. And I mean, I think that's definitely what Frank Herbert was going for in the books. And I
Mhm.
think, how do you pronounce his last name? Is it Villeneuve?
Villeneuve.
Uh,
I thought it was Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
this would be a
Villeneuve.
great moment for Eric Sayor to emerge from the heavens and
I
say
know,
it
but then
perfectly.
just
he'd
pops up, he's like,
pronounce it, and then
and then just like disappears.
he'd pronounce it, and then I'd feel like an idiot because I couldn't pronounce it properly until I heard it like 15 times in a row. But anyways, yeah, he as a director like managed to get all this across, and the general audience doesn't have to know about this deeper part of the Dune mythology. They can
Yep.
just be like, okay, this is just the way it is because the world feels so lived in this
Mhm.
movie. Like,
Yes.
you,
I
mm,
also want to take this moment to take a heaping shit on one specific factor and idea and concept from the 84 version that I had forgotten about until Eric brought up like last week. Fuck weirding modules. I hate it.
mhm,
What a dumb Star Wars action figure. Let's sell some Nerf
yes,
guns kind of idea. Like, and I'm sure Lynch was just like, I envision David Lynch making this movie, sitting down with his feet up on some kind of ottoman, with a hat pulled down over his eyes, and like 25 cigarette butts around his feet, and like his hands are folded in his stomach, and someone's like, "All right, David, we gotta do the weirding module shot," and he's like, "Yeah, the fucking weirding module shot. What the fuck ever?" Like,
This
like
isn't
just
my fucking movie.
absolutely divorced from the process. Like, it just doesn't give a fuck. Um,
He's like, this hasn't been my project since day one. God
Yeah,
damn
who
it!
gives a shit? Fucking shoot me.
I don't see. Part of me thinks the weirding modules could be cool if used in a different movie and explained in a
Yeah,
different way. But
yeah.
we got what we got, and it's not that great. Like
Because they
Nope.
eight.
took it's like because it seems to be mostly motivated by the idea of like my name has become a killing word, which I believe is said in the new one, but it's more like it's a battle cry, and
Well,
Mhm.
it's a
yeah,
crusade,
it's a
concept. And
jihad
yes,
because
exactly, it's a
Right.
holy war in
that's
this kid's name.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's in the name of the Quetzalcoatl Haderach, in the name of Muad'Dib. Like
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like not to give away too much of the other books, but I mean, the second book is all about how like this holy crusade has gotten out from underneath Paul, And
Yeah.
it's the whole reason is because with his prescience, like he's too afraid to make a move that would screw something up, so he doesn't do anything, and it just leads to the Fremen like zealots and all the other people that start following him. Like billions of people are slaughtered across the universe. So like
Jesus.
yeah, so his name does become a killing word, but I don't know if that line was used in the book at all. But the other reason they used the weirding modules in the movie was because the weirding way, like the crazy martial art that they're supposed to basically know, it they couldn't figure out a way to film it properly with the 84 version.
Mhm.
So they just came up with
So it
this
just
thing.
becomes a pew pew.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Which, well, honestly, like
becomes a
the
yell
way a
gun.
weirding module works, you could go pew pew and then actually
Yeah,
kill something.
Yeah,
yeah,
probably.
most
Yeah.
likely. I mean that is something they establish in it. Like it's certain tones and intonations of your voice are what equal various things. Because like there's the one point where he sets the thing on fire by using a different tone of his voice than
Yeah,
when he's just blowing off the spikes.
yeah, he got his contra power up.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah, no,
thing
yeah.
is that and this is by no means anyone's fault, but uh watching those fight sequences with the shields up was like watching Tron while being held upside down and being shook for your lunch money. Like it's visually jarring and so janky and silly looking.
Well, isn't that what Roblox look like?
It looks like a fucking Minecraft
Yes,
boxing match. Like it's just
exactly.
these two rectangles are just throwing down.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
And those actors are doing their best. They're really trying, but
They are.
they all feel so defeated.
Okay, also, what a fucking jobber this Duncan Idaho is. Holy shit. This guy's a
he's got a
loser.
cool.
He
I
sucks.
I fucking love that there is a hot like I don't know if it's high concept, but like there's a sci-fi thing out there where there's a character named Duncan Idaho.
Mhm.
And it's
There's
played
something
by
about
the
that.
world's coolest man who
Yeah,
doesn't change his
Mhm.
acting style one iota for Dune 2021 and somehow fits in right along with everybody. Like he's so
Yeah.
likable.
I mean, I'll say this is probably the Idaho expert among the group. He's the best thing with the name Idaho on it. Um, come at me, Idaho. Come at me.
But I did
Um,
read so he does and he I was so like before I watched the 84 version, I like did some wiki dives just to see like kind of what was happening with some characters because like I couldn't remember what oh yeah, it's a rabbit hole where it's just like the whole like there's no hope
well,
of catching like debris or catching hold of something. The hole just gets wider.
well, and especially with Duncan Idaho. But go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll
oh my
interject then.
god, this guy's like his life is basically like, "Oh, you died, welcome back. Oh, you died, welcome
Hmm.
back. Oh, you died,
mhm.
welcome back."
Yep.
Um but like and it's a big deal that he takes out what 19 of the Sardaukar,
Yeah, the
Yes.
Sadakar. Yeah.
Sardaukar, and like he dies very specifically, and I guess it says like a grievous head wound. And in the fucking 84 version shows he shows up, opens the door, and is just immediately bodied.
Yeah, he's shot
It's
and he's
just
done.
done.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's just gone. Well, there are a lot of characters that are just like
Drops
edited
dead.
out of the movie. Like, I don't know what happens to Thufir in the 84 version. I don't
He
know.
runs away with a
Uh,
pug.
yeah, it's just like, okay, and that's it. You see him in a cell later, and I don't know if he shows back up again or not. I assume he just died.
Well, wait,
Um,
wasn't Thufir the one who was poisoned, who had the cat that he was connected to that was processing the
Oh,
poison?
that's the Mentat. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Gurney.
Oh, Gurney? Yeah, Gurney does that in the book too. Like, I mean,
mhm,
he shows back up later in the story
yeah.
because I mean, in the Lynch version, they did get that right that he comes back, but there's a little bit more to it because like Gurney is working with smugglers, and they're like, you know,
Mm.
we can bring you back to Caladan, or if you keep working with us, we can promise you as much Harkonnen blood as you want. Because Gurney in the books, you find out like he has a scar running down his face, and that's from when he was tortured by the Harkonnens or the Harkonnens.
Mhm,
Oh
So
yeah, that
he
pronunciation guide is
hates
now
them.
fucked in my head.
mhm.
And in terms of like other characters who I just it's weird because I saw the 84 version first, but it was ages ago. So I'm watching this, I'm like, this is just like a brand new experience. But like I think literally every villain I saw in the 84 version I thought was just a cackling, idiotic cartoon that offered nothing to any scene they were in. And specifically in some sequences, I was so perplexed by the additional level of weirdness. Like, what are heart plugs a thing?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Why did I have to see Baron Harkonnen cover himself in syrup and then secretly molest a man who put some flowers in his room or something? Also, why does
Well,
he have
okay.
a fucking strip shaved down the middle of their fucking head? So many things about this movie that bother me.
I
There's
don't
so
know.
it's
Mhm.
like there are a lot of choices that are made just because they're choices, and they're never explained in the movie.
That's why
And
it's the Lynchian thing where he's
yeah,
like, someone's like, care to explain it? And he goes, no,
well, so
absolutely
I'm looking
not.
at Woody Woodpecker.
I imagine the 3, 4, 5 hour version of the movie actually would explain it, release the Lynch cut. Um, but it's not there in the movie. And the reason that I think the movie would be watchable if it were longer because you can tell that they cut into the middle of scenes that are ongoing multiple times during the movie. I noticed that more rewatching it for this. Like they cut into the death of Dr. Uwe um like mid scene. Like you can tell that there was an entire sequence there and then they just cut to the like
He's
2
like,
minutes before
hello,
he
I'm
died.
here. Ooh, I've died. And then
Yes.
and the
He's like, "Do you
narrator's
want
like,
to
and
join your
then he
wife?"
died anyway.
Yeah, exactly, and it just keeps on moving, and that happens multiple times where you're like, "Why are we cutting in the middle of a scene? I don't understand this. Did they really need to cut that much time?" And I guess that they did. They really needed it to be 2 hours because and it just completely ruins the flow of the movie. Um, Many movies in recent years have been ruined by editing in the same ways, and this was just like
Are
aggressive.
are you telling me
Um,
Warner Brothers of all
That-
studios?
mm. Well, okay, so it's important. It's important to point out the original Dune was a De Laurentiis production, Connor.
Mhm.
K.O. McLachlan.
Kale?
K.O.
Hail!
McLachlan.
And he was, to be fair, he was a producer of all of Lynch's early work. He's the reason Blue Velvet exists, so I don't want to shit on him too hard. But he could have stood up for David and been like, "No, let it be longer," because the 2 hour runtime just does not work. There are so many moments where it's like, you need to let that concept breathe a little bit. You need to let the introduction of Stilgar be more than a moment before he's suddenly fighting with
Man,
Jessica.
what a fucking piece of wood that guy is. Holy shit.
Well, and
Hunter, I don't think you
again,
made it as far to meet Stilgar, but like this
Probably
dude,
not.
it's one of the Twin Peaks actors too. I can't remember his name,
it's
but
Ed.
it's
Yeah,
Ed.
I don't
Yeah.
remember his
Also
real
notable for
life
from
name,
the
but yeah.
people under the stairs. So you're like, that guy has
Yes.
range.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
then he shows this movie. He's like, "Hello, I am Stilgar." Oh no, she has pregnant paws. Looks everywhere.
Hmm.
The weirding way to no reaction whatsoever because you're like, I don't know what the fuck that is.
You
I
haven't
wish.
explained it well at all. It's just like, and I made this joke in the chat. So many sad David Lynch regulars and Twin Peaks actors, where it's like they know that they can do better, and they know they can do better with him, but they're just stuck there, being like,
No,
"I was an Eraserhead, and now I'm doing this. I'm so sorry."
For
I'm just
me, like,
imagine like a 1930s like big time like new Hollywood star going like I was in a Racerhead like
I saw Dune, Lynch's Dune, when I was probably like 8 or 9. So, like, it
Mhm.
left an indelible mark on me, and I'm realizing because my wife and I just rewatched it, like, probably a month ago. Well, she had never
Mm.
seen it before. This is
oh
this first
god.
time for her. Yeah, yeah. She said, I think her response was, "I tried to watch the whole thing, sweetie." Um, but
We did too.
but I feel like the stuff that I remember the most are some of like just the lines that you remember from that movie, like the slow blade
Right.
penetrates and like the
Yeah.
Ursula, this is Wormside that not even God has seen. Like it
I
that's the type of stuff
one
that
of
sticks with me.
some of the exchanges
Yeah.
to me are like when the shield wall goes down, like it's six guys run through a trench. They go, the house shield, the house shield, the house shield is down, the house shield, the house shield, and then
Hmm.
they all just blow up. Like
Yeah. Yeah, well,
It feels
that's
more like
Yeah,
something that I would
basically.
see like Mike and the Robots just shit on for an hour and 45 minutes. Like it's got that level of like just it can be riffed so effectively in just minutes with minimal effort. And the
It
internal
really can,
monologues
and
are fucking hysterical.
they are. They're really bad,
yeah,
and like moments like they do this big introduction for the Beast Reborn, and he does nothing in the movie. He like
hey,
throws a
hey,
man
hey.
off a bridge,
He
and
eats some
he says a
chicken,
line.
and then the
He
Baron
walked up and
squeezes
ripped
his
a piece off
face.
a cow or
Yeah,
something?
that's it. Yeah, yeah. While the Baron was floating around in his repulsors.
My
Yeah,
God.
Dude, the fucking Baron. He's just like he's what people think James Bond villains used to be. Like just this cackling idiot who's like and like twirls his manager. And then like at some point the Beast also was joining in on the fucking villainous cackling. Like okay, and Fade. Like when he man, Hunter, sometimes I wish you had the endurance to make it to this specific scene. Like that scene you're talking about where like he's just zipping around the room screaming to himself in his repulsors and then this cross stream of like steam jets and shit like stops to unveil Sting as Fade in just this winged crotch piece who just stands there and the Baron just like eye fucks him from across the room and then he's like Fade like it's that's when I fucking turn the movie off.
Fade, bring
when
them
you've
to
had enough,
me,
I will
Fade.
send beautiful Fade. And well, yeah, in the book, the Baron is famously interested in little boys.
Okay,
Like
that is
Right.
context I really
Excuse me?
needed when he attacked the
Yeah.
flower
No,
planting kid
uh-huh.
in that
Mhm.
room.
Yep, he's all about the
I
little
mean,
boys.
yeah, and it makes sense when you know that during the flower planting scene, but like they do nothing to set that up. They
No,
don't give
not at
you
all.
any sense of that.
Not at all. Like not even him saying
It's
like something that's
he
slightly.
doesn't even vocalize like a thought. He's not like yes that one
Mhm.
or something like that. Like it's a shot of this kid trembling. It's honestly fucking horrifying because like kid's like hand is trembling. He's putting the
Mhm.
flower pot in, and like Baron's just licking his lips. By the way, the whole
Mm.
skin treatment thing can go the fuck out the window.
Oh, that was made
My
up for the
God.
Lynch movie.
Of course it is. Like it's
Mhm.
the Lynchian shit in this movie that I really can't stand
Mhm.
like that really hurt it. Cause I'm like, you didn't have to be that gross and weird, and it just it helps nothing. Like, what was the weird vagina monster in the beginning? Like
It just feels obvious.
That
Yeah.
was a navigator, and
Well,
like
yeah.
I would no, because I was like doing some reading about navigators, and like most of the time they're described as like having elongated limbs because they're bathed in spice and water all the time.
Mm,
So their bodies have changed drastically
right.
from the excess. And 1 second. Sorry, I had to sneeze. There's a there was one description of them that said like, some of the long-term navigators have like a V for a nose, and like, their skeletal structure has changed drastically. So I
oh,
think
so
what
it
it
would just be
was.
these like featureless lumps because their physical like
Right.
surroundings and method of moving around has changed so drastically. Like
Yeah. I
and
mean,
this
they
is like, make it a
Right.
fucking sucking
Yeah.
monster, and I don't know, give it a big old eye or
Well,
something. Give
and
me a
make it
fucking
look like the
cigarette.
so
baby from Eraserhead.
I understand making
Yeah.
it more like yeah, I understand making it kind of like aquatic, kind of because it makes sense if you're navigating space. That checks out to me. It's like there's a detail in Star Trek: The Next Generation where they have a part of the ship called cetacean ops, which is dolphins that help them navigate through space, and they are official officers of Starfleet.
Nice. Nice.
Did not know that. It's fucking awesome.
So like yeah, so like the navigators being less humanoid and being kind of like fish-like, okay, I can jive with that. And you see one of the navigators like floating through like a thing to get to the space where he helps them navigate.
Yeah,
But
he's
I think that
folding
they just
space
went
time.
really weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, you
it's
don't
just like
say.
really
Oh, they're
strange
gonna
the
fold
way that
space,
they
Eric? I didn't
depict
know they're
it.
gonna fold space because nobody in the scene told me they're gonna fold space in the scene they were gonna fold space.
Are you sure about that?
I didn't. And then Paul going,
Jurgen
they're going.
Prochnow is really trying.
Oh my god. Okay, here's the
They're
thing. His
really
performance
trying.
is so alarming to me because he doesn't act like a man who cares about his family. He acts like a man who's going to leave a planet with his son and come back without him. Um, he's like, "Hello, my great son Paul. Many things for
I'm
you."
gonna leave
Looks
you out
off
in
in
the
the
woods,
distance.
and you're either gonna come back or not.
Yeah, or he's gonna murder him and not tell anybody. Like he's like, "Hello, my beautiful, grand, smart son." Looks off in the distance, cracks an empty, soulless smile, looks back, like,
Well, I
Facade.
one of the crazier things that like with the Lynch version is how old do you think Paul is supposed to be in the books?
Yes.
young.
He's
'Cause I
I think he's supposed to be
15.
like 10
That's what I
or
thought. I
like
imagined
He's
this
yeah,
way of
15
life
14,
in
yeah.
the
for
books.
like Leto Atreides started when he was like a fucking teenager. So
Oh.
yeah, I'd imagine that Paul is the same way.
So he
But
was the
that's
same age as Timothy Chalamet when he started his YouTube channel.
Right.
sick
Right.
ass
Yeah.
controllers, dude.
And
But
he
that's
looks
the
like he's about to he looks like he wants to bang Rebecca Ferguson, clearly.
oh
That's something
Christ.
we're all thinking of when we watch the movie.
Uh,
The
but no, I
movie, he's a
the point
magazine. It's just life.
the point I wanted to
Uh,
get to with mentioning
the
that
memes
Paul's
that have grown up around the movie are great.
the point I wanted to get to about Paul being 15 in the books and in the newer one essentially is that if you look at the Lynch version, like their version of Paul is actually like a 30-year-old, but he still has the mind of a 15-year-old. It makes
He
it more interesting.
gives off the energy of a guy who never left home and
Yeah,
is like, "It's my turn to be the military man now," Mom said.
Mhm.
Like,
exactly. So yeah, I like the idea that this is all just a big show for him because he's a sweetly retarded child.
yeah,
He's
Just
simple.
yes,
yeah, it's
You
yep,
don't
building
have
module
to.
day. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. He wasn't actually on Arrakis.
That-
He was in the
cool.
sand
SEAL
pit.
training, my favorite
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not in the mood.
yeah, he's like Robin from Game of Thrones, but like worse. Um, God, and it's really weird because for anybody that hasn't seen the movie Blue Velvet, when you watch that, Kyle MacLachlan feels like he's 10 years younger than he is in Dune, and he's 2 years older.
Yep.
So just for some context there, like the way that he's playing it in the movie just does not work for Paul. Um, Considering like the respect I have for him as an actor, it's just like completely wasted in that movie.
This movie does a lot of people a lot of people a disservice, and that's kind of incredible and fascinating. Also, I
Yes.
want to point out that Kyle MacLachlan's hair was just growing in size over the course of the duration of this movie. Like it's just
Great.
it starts off like as this simple kind of like coiffed like and you're like, that's large,
Majestic.
but fine.
Yeah.
And then by like the halfway point, you're like, I think it's becoming sentient. Like it's dominating the space it's in. Like it's ridiculous.
Oh, so since you didn't get to the last half hour, Connor, and you definitely didn't see this hunter, like you don't get to see the point where he's riding the back of a sandworm and the wind is blowing his hair
Oh, I
back.
remember that visual from the first time I
Why?
saw it. Like
Okay.
because that's how even the first time I watched it, like I walked away going, there's a lot of close-ups of Kyle MacLachlan going spice. Like
Must flow.
Well, Hunter, how far did you make it into the movie?
20 minutes.
Wow.
And I tapped out.
Wow. So you barely got past the opening monologues about what's
Yeah.
going on.
You barely got past Princess Erlewine, who opens the movie telling you this huge lore dump and just
Yeah.
I hate the narration.
Just-
I also hated the inclusion of, and I'll say why in a second, but like the inclusion of the entire imperial assassination plot of this giant family and military establishment and like, you know, the human colony is bullshit because you're like, oh, all right, thanks for laying out the tension for me, guys. As opposed to what the new one did, which is
Yeah.
if you're even a hint unfamiliar with it, you go and you're like, oh, cool, the Atreides house. They look fucking cool. You're getting this planet. All right, cool. Wow, the Harkonnens
They're
are
scary.
fucking terrifying. And Stellan Skarsgård sounds like a monster.
Yep.
And Batista's there.
Holy
Drax.
shit! Wow, they just fucking assassinated every one of these people. There was a payoff to that tension, and this
Yeah.
fucking vagina slug face monster shows up, and it's like the House of Atreides, and the Emperor's like, yeah, gonna kill him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like
hmm
in the book, it's one of those things where there's constantly like kind of war games between the different giant houses. And since Atreides won this last one against the Harkonnens, they get to take over Arrakis. The thing is, like, it's supposed to all be, above board, but everybody is making money on the side off Arrakis, like, including the Emperor. And that's why he wants to have uh, Leto killed. Because if he
hmm
goes there, he's going to try and turn it into an honest planet, and everybody's going to lose their money. So that's
Yeah,
the reason why in the
It's like a mob
book,
hit.
kind of, yeah. Yeah, and
yeah,
like the Emperor even says, like in the book, he even says, like, he likes Leto. He thinks he's a great man. He wishes he was his son, but he's fucking with his money.
But don't fuck this up for me, boy.
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, and
Exactly.
the Emperor's like,
yeah.
this thing just like interrogates him, and he's like, "Yeah, totally gonna do it. Why? When? How? I'll tell you." And then just lays out his entire nefarious plan to this fucking slug monster, and things like, "Yeah, totally, kill Paul Atreides."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "All right, cool." And then like that happens like 2 or 3 more times where like characters walk in the scene and just kind of tell you what they're gonna do in 10 minutes, and then in 10 minutes they do the thing.
hmm Well, because they told you they were going to, so they
hmm
have
Of
to.
course they have,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah. You
they're
need to
people of
know.
their words.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah. I think we've mostly like done the big evaluation of the older movie.
hmm
I mean, that's basically it. Like, it's a lot of the same story. Like, the plot isn't the problem with that movie,
Mm-mm.
to say the
I
least.
think, dare I say,
Um,
it has too much or too little. I can't tell.
mhm. It's
I
really
th-
just like the execution and the way that it's just played out, and it's
yeah,
just, yeah,
yeah. The
it's very hard to
performances
watch.
don't do it any service.
Um,
hmm
no.
But
Well, and some of them are just off. They're just wrong. they're just they're just incorrect. It's like you're playing that wrong. Dr. Uwe is really like my biggest example. Where Dean
Dean
Stockwell,
Stockwell.
great
Yeah.
actor, fantastic. Yeah, like he's been in fantastic things. He's had great roles in the past. He does not work.
Mm-mm.
He does not
Mm-mm.
work as the character. His entire performance, his entire betrayal of Atreides just does not play well.
Oh, but he's got a
Versus
little
the movie that
mustache.
came out, where it's like,
I
oh, I understand why you're betraying them. You're playing this perfectly. I understand every choice here.
oh
And when
yeah,
he
I was
died in the new
blindsided by that
one, I was
movie.
like,
Yeah.
wow, I felt it.
hmm
Yeah, just
I
yeah,
also could not stand this interpretation of the Mentats. Like, I'm like, this is dumb and also Lynchian and silly, and it's not working at all. Like all these like weird balding eraser head
yeah.
guys with these diving board eyebrows, and like who was the one we were talking about earlier?
Doofer Hewitt.
Oofer, like that guy's performance is like, we
hmm
keep finding more sabotage boxes across the like he's just like a fucking he's an idiotic bulldog half the
hmm
time who's just kind of
hmm
delivering his lines these big puffed out cheeks, um and just like and then Brad Dourif
Right.
is
It's like
there to like
no wonder
really
you
cheese up
guys
the place.
lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
It's
is
like,
your
oh,
guy.
no wonder you died. No wonder you failed.
No
It's
what? Yeah,
like,
no wonder we
whereas,
fucking
like,
knocked you over so easy.
again,
This is the guy watching your ass.
Yeah, yeah. They did a shit job of
And yeah,
representing
and then
him.
Brad Dourif is there as one of the mentats to just really make things weird, in the way that only Brad Dourif can.
Mm-mm.
Also the way he kills Dr. Uwe is fucking hysterical. Like it's just he
This is
stabs him with a knife, and it sounds like he pops a balloon. Like he
yep.
let out the air out of Dr. Uwe. He's like, "Ugh!"
Oh, he had to go do Quantum Leap. He couldn't.
And
He
a
couldn't
and a
do
movie
it.
right.
with a certain Baldwin brother who's been in Movie Dumpster 3 times now, I believe.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I can't
Mm.
imagine which one.
Again, also in Blue Velvet.
Yeah. Yep.
Great
Yeah.
movie.
Great movie.
Yeah, great film. Yeah,
But
Dean
yeah, I
Stockwell,
guess
great moment in that movie. Wasted in this
speaking of
movie.
speaking of great movies, I think we should move on to 2021 Dune. Because I mean, we could go on
Yeah,
forever and ever about the
Yeah.
84 Dune, but it's just yeah.
Yeah,
we
so I did
could.
watch this. I watched this movie on the big brand new awesome TV.
hmm
This
Mhm.
movie does some, it's like outstanding things in terms of visual effects and just putting something there that looks fucking weird, um, but
Mhm.
also mind-numbingly realistic and detailed and realized, and just like this
Yeah.
universe is so just it's
Lived in.
they it's lived in and
Yeah.
flawlessly done. Like I don't think there's a
Mhm.
scene that took me out of the fucking movie.
Nope. No.
But yeah, I wanna add on to that though. At the same time, there are these moments where it's like they're doing 2001 here. I don't know what they're doing exactly to evoke the 2001, but they're doing it, and I love it because I love 2001.
All
And like
the it's like
specifically like the navigator ship and the way that that looks
yes,
in space, and like just the look of it and the way that it feels like it, and it again, it's the thing of it feels like a 70s or 60s sci-fi book cover on screen in all of the best possible ways, from the coloring to the shading to I don't know what the effects team did here. I don't know if they broke out old school models and put that on screen, or if they just did really hard work to make it look like that old school special effects stuff. That stuff really worked for me, and it had that balance of that like insane like starkness and uh
monolithic features.
grandeur. Yes, absolutely. And this like gravity to these visuals, while at the same time having what you guys are talking about, the sense of lived inness and the sense of like this is a sci-fi world that I feel like I could walk through and I wouldn't be completely lost
It's like how
in every
the
single
Star
element.
Wars series kind of became known for like looking like shit. Like it's just everything
Hmm.
everything is dirty and dingy except the Imperial stuff. Like all that stuff is always pristine and kind of like it's dark, but it's always clean. But like everything on the hero side or planets all look like dusty and dingy, or it was like these sprawling metropolises. And like
Mhm.
this is like we said, they've come so far that everything feels scaled back and like it's almost like a what was that brutalism, I think it was, where like everything is just like it's the
Mm.
designs are more like, no, this is functional and also it looks fine, but it
Brutalism is control to a T. All
yes,
of the design
yes,
in that is brutalism. Yeah.
yeah. Where it's like that's a ship, but like it's basically just like a fucking pebble with an opening in the front. Like that's all it looks like. But it's
Yep.
fucking mesmerizing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's
it's
I
great
think it's
design.
the idea that they're breaking down like everything to its easiest and most component form, where it's just like, all
Yeah.
right, we need to travel through space. It doesn't have to have crazy wings and all this other stuff on it because most of us are just going to be in pods anyways. So let's just do this
Mhm.
as quickly and easily as possible. And
Except
that,
I do love the choice to make their actual uh drone ships
mhm.
make them fucking dragonflies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and the ornithopters or whatever. Well,
Yeah, the
that
Yes.
was
ornithopters. Yeah.
that was something I was saying to my wife is like it would make sense if man had like rebelled against machinery, like that they would look to nature for what they're going to
Yeah.
Mhm.
build. And honestly, like something with six wings instead of just two rotors would probably stand up much better in the desert.
Yeah, six wings that all
Yeah.
have that can move independently and do different things.
Hmm.
Like you're gonna, you have a far better chance to stay in the air. And they even show you how useful that ship is, like when you're there instead
Yep.
of free fall.
Yep.
Which is like funny. I think of like an X-wing. I'm like, there's no benefit to having that, especially when you can just fly them with the regular wings. It's
Well,
just
or
Mhm.
in space you don't even
And
need
then yeah, in
wings.
space.
But yeah.
Yeah, you don't
But
need those,
anyways,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Also, you
But
it's
can't
just like
hear
it
anyone.
opens up and there's two more lasers. Like that's just
It would
basically
be
all it
smarter to
is.
just
ooh.
have, like, rigs that you attach onto it when you need to go onto a planet
Hmm.
that detach when you don't need them. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
But yeah, the design choices were honestly pure perfection, and that's
Um,
that's definitely what I was coming into expecting
yeah, I
was just
yeah,
also
beautiful design.
love the
absolutely.
design of the colony on Arrakis because it looks metallic, but also looks like someone just hit a fucking mountain with a laser and just
Yeah,
carved this settlement into the fucking surface of the planet. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
And that
yeah.
one long shot of them just going over the whole thing, I'm like, it looks like it was etched like by fucking aliens. It looks so goddamn good. And then when you get an idea of the interior, that design also jumps out again because you're like, oh, this you can't be outside at a certain point because the fucking heat will just kill you.
Hmm.
Um, so like it has to
Yeah,
be something that's essentially a
yeah,
subterranean settlement that's just basically part of the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's kind of a
and
giant
part
earth
of what
ship.
I loved about that is that, like, not to go back to the Lynch version too much, but that one feels like modern human stuff or like medieval castles. A lot of it. This is like, well, like we were saying earlier, we've circled back in certain places to things that are older. So we've gotten back to pyramids and like these very basic designs that are kind of better in certain ways than what we have now. So I love that it's like a pyramid design, like just in an elongated pyramid, and like you said, the way that the walls are built, the way that windows have like
Mm.
multiple feet before the sun can even get inside to like cut down on heat. It's just so clever, but it also looks cool as hell,
Yeah.
which is
It reminds me of old like
yeah, I just
pueblos,
love
like
that.
those.
Yeah,
It's like those like houses that are like built into
yeah,
the fucking mountain or something like that. It's basically made of clay.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it's the idea that having something like that as your foundation, or at least a part of your base to your house, is when it gets hot, it'll keep the house warm. When it gets cold, it'll keep the house cool. So, like in the summer, you'll have kind of interior air conditioning, and having it built in a valley like that, like they did in Dune, would make total sense.
yeah,
It would also help conserve water
yeah,
because being in a lower
absolutely.
point.
It's
Yeah.
Um, and
Mm.
acting wise, man, I don't think there's a fucking like we even said. Jason Momoa is in this movie, and Jason Momoa is like
He's just
he's
being
just
himself.
he's just like
Really.
he's just awesome. I don't know how to describe it. Like he's just this giant fucking like
Teddy bear.
massive yeah Hawaiian teddy bear.
Yeah.
Um, and like
Mhm.
everyone else is giving these stoic Shakespearean fucking performances, and they're monologuing, and like he walks up and he's like fist bumping people. He's like, "Hey, brother, what's up? Hey,
Mhm.
hey, hey, hanging out with these cool people called the Fremen. They're kind of fucking awesome." And they're just fucking
Which
just
I like the way that that plays in the movie. If I had to pick like a thing I don't like, that would be it. Like him and Liet Keynes, they don't feel like they're in the same movie, but I think it works in the course of the movie that for like the Fremen and people who have spent time with the Fremen to be a little bit more natural. Um, you also get the sense of like a class divide with Duncan, Idaho, which I like. Gurney is also a little bit less Shakespearean and uptight. So like I think that it's a choice, but I think it works, and I think that you can find character reasons for why
well. I'll
some of
tell
them
you.
feel different.
I'll tell you why Gurney also works because Josh Brolin walked in. Someone said, "Hey, Thanos." He said, "What?" And then never left that mode. Um, and like I don't know what it is about Josh Brolin's performance as Thanos, but it is evergreen. It's menacing, captivating, and just super interesting every time I hear him do that voice. Because like it's not just the voice; like his persona kind of comes out of that fucking purple CGI blob. Um, and like he manages to do that like in
Mhm.
this movie, like it's just part of his fucking character and nature. Like Josh Brolin's just a cool ass dude who comes off as like yeah, I can crack
Yeah.
jokes and be sarcastic. Also, I'll snap both of your arms and use your fucking bones as toothpicks. Like
Yeah, you really need to watch Sicario then.
Yeah.
yeah,
It.
Yes.
yeah.
No, you would.
Like,
Sicario is like the polar opposite, but it's so good. There's something
Sicario.
about Josh Brolin can turn on the surfer bro, but he can turn on like the military like uptight stooge very easily as well. And his ability to go back and forth is unparalleled.
He's someone I didn't
Yeah.
really appreciate until the last like decade or so. I'm like, God, he's so fucking good.
Mm,
I remember him being excellent in No
yeah.
Country for Old Men, and that was
It
kind of
was
where I
really
was like,
fun to see
"Who's
the
this man?"
yeah,
see the
we got a
transformation
we
from
got a little reunion there on that note.
Oh
with
shit,
who?
that's right. Oh my dude, you cover Javier Bardem in a big enough beard. I
Oh
don't see him.
fuck! I didn't even think about that. Yeah, yeah, you're right. And it
Yeah,
just
it's a yeah.
yeah, well, just how much like when Javier Bardem showed up, like I was like, oh shit, I forgot that Stilgar is here because I didn't think about him
Yeah.
being Javier Bardem when I saw him. It was just, oh, who's this like
Yeah.
fucked up Fremen?
Who is this? Who is this blue-eyed, mostly beard, mostly muscle, just like tanned face man with a voice that could just fucking make my guts rumble. My God.
Yeah.
Um, Javier Bard. I don't know where
Yeah.
he was manufactured, but he's a terrifying man. Um, But yeah, I forgot he was in this
He
movie
is.
altogether. And like, I love that his first thing he does when he shows up is just spit on the fucking floor.
Mhm.
God, he's so good. Also, the guy who
So
plays
good.
Jamis,
Which one?
the one
Mhm.
who has to fight Paul
Paul.
at the end. Yeah, that
Oh,
guy
yeah, the one
was
that we're
also
like
really good for like
misled about by the visions. Yeah.
yes, which I also thought was fantastic because it reminded me of Valhalla Rising from Refn and how
Mhm.
that character has like
Mm.
precognition, but like you're always like the context is so garbled and and missing that you can't really tell what the fuck is happening until it does. And this, you're like, oh, spoilers. Oh no, like
Well,
Yeah, I
some
really
of them. I
love
feel like
that. I
some of the
mean, that's
things
a
are going to
larger thing,
happen, and
but
then some of the things are Paul is seeing, and
yeah.
then finds opportunities to change. I guess
and
is how it's going.
no, what I was going to say was
Mhm.
I'm completely wrong on because I was mistaken because something that I don't know if they'll tell you about in the second part of this, but uh Johnny's dad in the book was Leah Keynes because Leah Keynes was a guy.
Right.
But I'm wondering if they'll do the same thing and say that Leah Keynes was her mother because that was in the
Probably.
books. In the books, like he and they actually did kind of cover this in the Lynch version. Like they had gone native, basically. Like they were the ones.
Mhm.
Like Leah Keynes was the one working with the Fremen on like how to terraform Arrakis back into a forest planet.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and like in the book, like Leah Keynes was kind of a godhead for them initially because it's this person who came from Outworld and adapted to their ways and taught them how to do all these other things. So like Paul coming in as the actual godhead is kind of a point of contention initially.
So he's like a
And
proto
Mhm.
messiah.
yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Because like
Mhm.
even in the book there's a point where like Paul is just kind of like, listen, it's cute what you've been doing, but we both know what I am. And like the Keynes just kind of defers to him after that when he realizes what Paul is.
Right, yeah.
Dude, I've been
Yeah.
raised by a bunch of fucking by some Jedi, okay? Like through generations, as opposed to going like, this is the one, we got him on this desert planet. He's it. Stop the whole fucking stop the whole process.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
the difference between like, oh, this guy seems like he could be what we need, and then it's like, oh, the thing of prophecy is actually here. All right, yeah,
Well,
fuck
and
you.
I love this
Right.
this
Mm.
prophecy, or like like you said, how it's like this story also about how like prophecies are bullshit, but like if there's one prophecy you could try to sell me on, it's like, oh, this generations long gambit, or a cabal of fucking psychic witches have been
Mm.
plotting and working on this for decades. Like, oh, it's working? No shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, so I mean, you're just hitting on things that I loved about this. I know for a fact that like that's not a thing that's in the first story usually. That's a thing that's revealed later. And I love the fact that they were like, no, we're just gonna tell you that now.
I love
Like
that
in
Paul
the
is not just
first
he's not just a
story.
chosen one,
Like,
but he's such
yeah.
an extra chosen one that someone's like, yo, can we keep him around? Like,
Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's the
did we
thing
fuck up?
I've always
Yeah,
loved
don't
about the Dune books
do
is
not
that
kill him. Yeah.
like the first book is like what you expect for like the first book of a science fiction series, and then the second book is like, all right, motherfuckers, you wanted more with Paul, guess what? And then it goes off into weird places from then on. It's like, yeah, we wanted to just kind of rope you into this, and now we're gonna hit you with like the not hard sci-fi because it's not like technology and whatnot, but you know what I mean when I say hard
Mhm.
sci-fi. They're like, oh no, here's some concepts you probably can't even you can't even
Yes.
Oh,
deal with.
so
Yeah.
we were talking about design. I want to go back to this because
Mhm.
you just made me think of it. I don't know if Villeneuve has ever played or seen a Warcraft game, but he was giving me Warcraft vibes at the entire thing, and that might be because Warcraft probably does borrow from Dune. I can't imagine that it doesn't. But like,
You mean
it's
StarCraft, or do you mean
Warhammer. I'm
I
sorry.
wanna make sure.
Warhammer. There we
Oh,
go. Yeah, I said Warcraft. Wow.
um,
Yeah, it gave
Very
me Warhammer.
different.
I think that they're
Gave me
drawing from
Warhammer
similar it's
40K
like,
vibes. Not in design so much
it's
as
like
like
Dungeons& and Dragons and Lord of the Rings, like, it's I think it's a similar situation there where it's like yeah, they took a lot of their basic lore from that, I would assume. But the thing is that, like, there were so many super influential sci-fi things for Warhammer to draw from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
one of the first
But
things I thought
I
of when I
think you're
saw
right
like
in
the
that sense.
military regalia and how like that's kind of like the military way of life is like I wouldn't say it's religious, but like it is just how they live. And I was like, yeah, this kind of gives me like this weird like elitist kind
Mhm.
of I wouldn't say fascist, but like kind of an extreme version of this. Um and then like the idea of an emperor and all kinds of
Well,
stuff. And then all I can
it
think
is
of was
very
like,
Roman. Like,
yes.
yeah. Like the
And
fact that the Sardaukar are this separate army that is their own thing, and that everybody has their own army in a very like feudalistic way, and like the Sardaukar are known by other armies as like these like elite killers, and like, you know, Jason Momoa has that line, "You know when you fought a Sardaukar," or something like that, or you know when you've crossed blades with them. Um, like
Well,
all that
the
stuff, like the way that it tells you something about the world building through that, and we get like one scene of them before they're in action. Um,
hamburger,
but I
hamburger,
love that it's
cheeseburger,
just told
cheeseburger,
through
Whopper,
dialogue.
Whopper, Big Mac, Big
Yeah,
Mac.
so good. And I
well
love that it's just like a
that's
scene with him and Piter. Yeah, yeah.
that's the thing with Sardaukar was that like they're raised on a prison planet and trained by
Mhm.
like the greatest military mind. So like yeah, they are the elite, like basically army for hire, although they
And
kind of imply that they're the emperor's personal goons.
they reminded me of the Space Marines from Warhammer
Hmm.
specifically, where it's like the
Hmm.
Empire has
Yeah, yeah.
this personal army, hand of military might that he sends out to deal with his problems. Um, and then like the idea of like separate military factions, like I was saying, the Chaos Marines, but like it's just the first thing that popped in my head when all this stuff was kind of coming along. Um, but man, the Sardaukar are cool and terrifying for reasons I
Hmm.
cannot explain. I don't know what it is. I think it's the quiet way they drop down, um, but just like those propulsors,
Mhm.
the way all their voices have been modulated to hell and back, which is another thing I didn't really expect from this was to have like some low key horror elements in some of the stuff. Like the voice is creepy as shit.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I
Um,
mean, I think
Well,
they're definitely trying to translate the whole fact that
yeah,
these things are like built to
yeah,
kill.
exactly. And
yeah,
I wouldn't say that Denny started off as a horror director, but I would say he was horror adjacent in his early movies.
I mean, Enemy
Um,
is not a
and
fun
he's
time.
no, it's not. It's not a fun time. It's
No,
No,
it's
and
not.
an anxiety-ridden movie.
I don't want to
Um,
watch it ever again.
and he understands how to like make something just wrong to make something just feel not
I
right, and like
so like
everything from the Sardaukars entrance behind the Atreides troops to like them just like sneaking up on Liet Keynes, and just like, it's all so good. And like that moment when they're on the smaller ornithopter and you're just waiting for them to like come out of the shadows and they don't, it's one of the best fake outs, but like really tense moments in a movie I've I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that one shot of them
Yeah,
descending into that
stuff
sand
like
pit
that
where
is
it's like
really
there's no sound and
yeah.
they're just slowly one by one dropping into this pit like they have all the time in the world and that's why I think they're fucking scary.
Yeah.
Cuz their patience at murder is
And then
alarming.
on that yeah.
Um
And then on that
also oh
note,
go
I
ahead.
love the way that I love the way that that sets up the Fremen also. I love the way that that,
Yep.
like, establishes that the Fremen are also fucking badass
Yeah.
Oh,
because they're just
yes, that
waiting
scene
for them.
is yes, because like the Fremen are sitting there bullshitting. They're playing with this like water device and like they're bullshitting, and then like the Sardaukar start dropping in, and you don't see the Fremen first, and when it cuts back, they're just gone. They left one thing, and after we've just seen the Sardaukar like walk through the entire Atreides family like it was a Sunday afternoon, um, and like they walk up, and then there's just this splash of sand, and the Fremen are
Yep.
kicking the shit out of these guys.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad they
Yeah.
established that relatively early on because like that's something that in the books you find out later is like Fremen have a pretty easy time with them because like yeah, the Sardaukar are like trained by the military and empires, but like the Sardaukar live in the wild and like they've trained themselves over generations.
It's wrong neighborhood, motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much that, because the Fremen are like, no, you guys don't have what we have, which is like, we own this planet. You have no idea what you walked into.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And also, just in comparison again, like, man, Duncan, Idaho in the 84 version is such a fucking disappointment compared to this, because man, I can't. He walks in, he's like, "Hey, Paul," and just fucking just dies.
Well,
Man,
I feel like
Jason Momoa gets 2 last stands. Like,
mm-hmm. I feel like
and I feel really sorry for the actor from '84, because he's in a million things from like the '70s and '80s, and he's just like nothing in that movie. He's
no
absolutely
presence whatsoever.
insignificant.
Well, I feel like they made Duncan, Idaho in the 2021 version so like likable, is in case this did go over like gangbusters, because I'm sure they had explained to Jason Momoa like, hey, if this does really well, how do you feel about the next 6 movies you're in, like, or 7 being like Dune movies? Because yeah, Duncan comes back a whole lot, like over thousands of years he comes back.
Is he an X-Men?
No,
he keeps. So I read about this. He keeps getting resurrected as, what is it? A Gaul?
It's a Gola. It's
Okay.
He's a clone, and like what happens in the second book is that the Tleilaxu, I think is what they're called. They know how to make clones, and they can also, replace people's eyes, but they haven't quite perfected it yet, so they make them they have metal eyes. Anyways,
Oh my god.
yeah, the Tleilaxu like have this weird thing when they set up a clone like this, because in the second book, Duncan is set up as like a way to kill Paul.
Yes.
Because so what ends up happening is that they're like, they tell Paul from the beginning, this is whoever, because he has a different name. I think it's Hate. He's going to try and destroy you. So they have to offer an out. It's a weird like honor thing. And what ends up happening at the end of Dune Messiah is that Duncan's able to reclaim his memories and defeat the conditioning and the whatnot from being cloned, and he just becomes Duncan, Idaho again forever for thousands of years after that.
That sounds like hell.
Yeah, he just keeps getting cloned, and like different versions of that version of him are getting cloned at different points in his life cycle. So there's like the original version of him that was cloned much later in the book series, and then there's also late or earlier versions of him. So it's bizarre and all over the place. But yeah, I love the idea that Jason Momoa is just like, yeah, man, let's do this.
Yeah, totally. Imagine the Lynchian version of all these Duncan Idaho clones. Duncan Idaho, Duncan Idaho, Duncan Idaho,
Oh my
Duncan
God.
Idaho.
Thankfully, it doesn't start getting that crazy until the second turns into a giant sandworm.
What?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes.
Paul.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So-
Things happen. Yeah.
So I feel like there should be a moment in this where we talk about the unmade what the fuck was his name?
Jodorowsky.
Jodorowsky Dune.
Yeah.
And like
Jodorowsky,
how that was the initial Kickstarter for the idea of like, this is unfilmable. Like, what you're trying to do here is never going to happen.
Well, he also had an insane budget for what, like it was 74, 75, something like that.
Also, his designs are
insane. They're awesome.
They're awesome, but like it's like giving Giger like a bunch of LSD and like just giving him like putting him on mood stabilizers and going like, just draw some shit.
Well, do you know who he wanted to have as Baron Harkonnen?
No.
Salvador Dali.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Jodorowsky's original plan for Baron Harkonnen, was to have Salvador Dali play him.
Okay.
Interesting. Hunter, you can look up his like whole like concept pitches and like concept art online. It is some of the wackiest shit I've ever seen, and there's a whole documentary about it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I was going to mention
It's
a fantastic documentary. Yeah.
The one thing I would love to have from that documentary is his like Dune Bible that just had all of his design choices and most likely the script in there. And
huge.
Yes. Yeah, it was huge. It was like 4 novels back to back. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because and what's amazing about that book is, and it's something that they kind of glaze over in the documentary, is everybody had a copy of that book, and it was like a
Oh my
book that
god.
people passed around in Hollywood at the time. So like
Oh my god.
George Lucas looked at that book at some point while he was writing Star Wars, and he was like,
Oh yes, I remember this, and was like,
"This is
Jesus
a good
Christ, like
idea.
someone
This
else
is
is doing this.
Yeah, and like these things just passed around, and I mean, I know for a fact Ridley Scott got a copy of that book. Dan O'Bannon, who worked on that Jodorowsky Dune, ended up working on Alien, and he brought Giger on, who also worked on that version of Dune.
Yep.
And you can find a lot of designs from that Dune in Alien and in Prometheus, all over the place. Yes, oh, especially like
The designers.
the among other things, the designers.
Wait.
That's from the Alien
Oh my God.
knockoff, the
The
Asylum
designers.
Films version
Yeah.
of Prometheus.
On E, come in and decorate your home.
And they're saying make it work. Oh my god.
In French.
Yes. Well, Hunter, you've been relatively quiet. What did you think of the 2021 Dune?
I liked it. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I liked it a lot. I thought it was like visually very beautiful.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
I have trouble with like high concept, like understanding high concept sci-fi like this. To me, I was really enjoying this movie, but I felt like a lot of it flew over my head.
Well, I think that's the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
Yeah, like
Yeah, if something I didn't
Yeah.
quite get right away was present, I was like, I'll catch up. Like I was not stressing over
Right.
understanding the deep concepts that were happening.
That's the
like,
thing I like about this movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like in the original one, when fucking Baron Harkonnen is flying around, I'm kind of like, why? Because it's never done for anything other than like, look at the wacky man zip around the room.
the big fat man. He
and
flies.
in this,
But
in
like
this
the
flies,
but
and I'm
like
like, it gives me anxiety. I'm so scared of him. Like,
I never took it as flying. In this one, I always saw him like
Well,
floating because,
Yeah.
and that was creepy because I was like,
mhm.
apparently someone told me it's because he's obese in the books and so he can't move.
Yep.
But I thought it was like he's crippled, so he needs that. But that makes it like even though he's crippled, him floating is like, oh, I don't want that. Please
Well,
go away.
even in the books, like if I
Well,
remember
and
correctly,
yeah.
it's just
Go ahead, Eric.
he's just lived such a life of opulence, and the repulsor things are something that he needs to move
Right.
around. So he's made himself handicapped by
Yeah.
doing that, and that's something else in the book that he talks about is like Raban, like the beast Raban is supposed to be getting fitted for repulsors at some point. Like he's actually a
Mhm.
bit more liked than he was in the Lynch version, and in this new version, I guess we'll see more of him in the next movie. I'm hoping.
okay, if I had to pick something,
Probably.
Leo's here, everybody. Our
All right.
typical mid-show
Yeah,
guest.
Leo's here.
Batista, Batista's so goddamn good that not getting enough of what I expected, or at least like wanted, was a little disappointing. But every time he was on screen, I'm like, God, he's so good at what he does.
Mhm.
He rules.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he did so little as he did. I thought it was more.
I'm curious how much screen
I'm
time he
guessing
had
that they're
in comparison to Zendaya, because I know a report came out that Zendaya was only in the first part of Dune for 7 minutes.
Chris Tuckman described Zendaya's role in Dune as like girl from music video.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what it is. Like,
so,
it's
I mean,
lots of shots of her looking at the sand and like kind of the sun's microwaving behind her.
I
her
wasn't
hand
I
all
wasn't
bloody.
too
on that
upset
note,
because he
though,
kept saying I'm not gonna be in it, but or maybe I was the only one who saw that. But I remember her saying a few
yeah.
times like I'm not in it that much, so
Oh, I didn't see any of that. I mean, it makes sense based on where they end the movie that she wouldn't be in it much, but I was just surprised to see how much of the marketing was pushing her, and it's like, oh, people are going to be kind of bummed out if they don't know this.
You know who else should
a lot of it
speak
was
a little
there,
louder
yeah.
and people should listen to him when they say that? Michael Keaton has said he's not going to be in the Flash movie that much, everybody.
Yeah,
As
wow.
excited as I
Well,
am, y'all need to chill.
Michael Keaton has said a lot of things, like he doesn't understand how timelines work.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he basically is going not to get on a tangent, but he was like, "I know how any of it worked. I just showed up and did my job." But he also like, "I loved it and had fun. I just didn't get what we were doing." Yeah, Batista
Yeah.
is kind of in this to sneer and growl, but like it's Batista, so really, I don't know, any amount of him
He
is
still
great.
does a fantastic job because he's become a really good actor over the years. Like he's
Yes.
developed as an actor. Like when you hear Arnold Schwarzenegger say, "I've been working to be a better actor for 30 years," you chuckle a little bit and you say, "Sure, Arnold." When Dave Bautista says he's been working to be a better actor, you look at the movies and you're like, yeah, he has
Dave Bautista
done
had a faster development as a performer in Hollywood than The Rock did, than Hulk Hogan did, than anybody who came
Yeah.
from the wrestling industry who jumped into film has ever. He went from
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the fuck he did first. I don't know if there's anything. He went from
Blade
Smallville.
3.
he went from Riddick to Blade 3 to being a box office guarantee slam dunk with Drax. And then after that, like he was in Blade Runner. And then he shows up and
Mhm.
like he's all over the fucking place and like no two performances are the same. He's amazing. I can't
Yep.
believe how gifted he is.
Yeah.
He's great. He's fantastic.
Which is funny
And you
'cause
skipped over it, but I said Smallville. And I'll say it again.
No. Why are you
I remember that
saying this?
episode. I remember that episode. I was like,
I
damn,
remember. That's the only reason
the
I'm saying
Beast
it
is gonna
because
be in.
I also remember that one. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
plug me out of the Matrix.
In that
Fire-
episode, he tears people's spines out and he eats them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because
Well,
And he almost
Smallville.
beats Clark, but I think Martian Manhunter just shows up and just like
Wow.
I forget what he does. He
Martian
just like
Manhunter
touches him.
shows
He's
up
like,
and
oh.
jobs him immediately. He's like,
Somehow,
"I'm here and you are
We are-
fucked."
somehow we always get to this topic.
Yes, we do.
Well, with Batista, I feel like once he did Guardians of the Galaxy, like that made some people like, oh shit, like take notice of him. And then when he was in
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049, a lot more people who probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have even looked at MCU stuff were like, oh, hi, how are you doing, very large man that actually has great range?
Mhm.
Oh, that's the
Again,
Alleged
I've only
Honey
seen
Man
that
from
scene
Guardians
from
of the
that movie.
Galaxy.
What?
He's only in that movie for like 10 minutes at most
But he's amazing
in
in it.
Blade Runner. But he's fantastic as this character who, like, spoilers, dies immediately. But he's like amazing. He has so much pathos in this one moment, and he's acting against
I've only
Ryan
seen
Gosling, who
that scene is the only
Mhm.
part I've seen from that
Mhm.
movie. But I've watched that scene many times, and I'm always catching something about his character each
So,
time. Like when he
I
puts
also
when
wanna
he puts
make
the glasses away,
I also
Yeah.
I'm
wanna
just like,
Yeah.
fuck.
to say that like his selection of roles is like The Rock is like you just said, Dave Bautista dies in what 10 minutes in Blade Runner.
Mhm.
The Rock has never been in a movie where he dies in 10 minutes. The Rock has never been in a movie where he's
Nope.
in it for 10 minutes. The Rock is
False. What's that one comedy movie? The other guys.
Yeah, he does die in the very beginning of that.
Okay, but that's like
But that's for a joke.
That's for a
He's more
joke.
than willing to die for a joke. That's
yeah,
different.
but like
That
The Rock
like
is at this point he's Bruce Willis. Like you're not going to pay The Rock to show up and leave the movie at any point. Like he's the leading man. He's going to survive and save the day.
right.
Batista does what he feels he's good at, and like it pays off in dividends. And like he barely says anything in this movie, and every time he walks on the screen, I'm like, look at the terrifying fucking
Yeah.
God damn it, abominable snowman that's in the armor and cacking people's heads off.
I mean, on that note, like he's willing to just like cut people's heads off. The Rock would never allow you to see him cut somebody's head off in the way that he does in this movie. Like he's just like brutally killing unarmed men.
Which I didn't expect.
yeah.
Like he's walking by and like there's it's an out of focus shot, which is going to bring me to another point I want to make about this movie. I really appreciate it. It's an out of focus shot, like there's kind of fire and erupting from there's these kind of Atreides men on their knees. He walks past them, and you think that's it. Like it's a cut in. It's just like this transitional scene. And then he turns around and just starts decapitating people. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's another. I love that so much of the movie is willing to just like show, not tell, which is such an important rule in filmmaking. Sometimes you don't need it, but most of the time that's how Denis decides to do things. and he
Mhm.
uses it so well in this. We were talking earlier about the Harkonnens and Baron Harkonnen. They give you all the information you need. You see like things glowing in his back. So you're immediately under the assumption that, well, those glowing things must do something. So when he starts floating, you're like, oh, that's what the glowing things do. That's what the
Mhm.
thing that we saw does. And it's I love that. I love that approach. And again, not to go back to the 84 Dune, the 84 Dune is like, that's what that thing is. Do you need a demonstration of what that thing is? It's like old school video games where you have to over explain every aspect. But in a video game, that makes sense because it's a video game.
Can you
This
imagine
is
David
a
Lynch going,
film.
press X to Jason?
I
Well,
would love that though.
that's something else I like about the Baron in the 2021 version is that like they're leaving it open for you to find out just how cunning and evil he is. Like in the Lynch version, he was a cartoon figure. He was a
Yeah.
cartoon character, just like I'm a laughing fat man.
He feels more like Fat Man from Metal Gear Solid 2.
He does.
Yes.
Anything
Well,
else. Might as well
the
be on
other
fucking
comparison
rollerblades.
the other comparison I love is Kingpin. And I love that comparison so much. He really is like Kingpin. He has that sense of like when he's unleashed, when he has the moment where he can kill you, he will destroy you. And we
Mhm.
see just a little piece of it with him in Uwe. And so good. Like he's so intimidating even when he's eating. And the way that he delivers that line, "You have a magnificent kitchen, cousin." As he's like
Yeah, like,
slides food into his
Line
mouth.
he delivers in this movie is soaked in menace, and like they
Hmm.
dip his voice a little bit, and Stellan Skarsgård has a voice that can already be menacing, and like he is
Mhm.
just everything he says is just sinister and cold. And then you get a look at him, you're like, oh god, every facet of
Yeah.
you is off-putting. And like that one shot of him eating is just like all the food, all of the food
Hmm.
is in a semicircle around his face. Like it's
Yeah.
just he's just a fucking gluttonous piece of shit.
I
And
wonder
the
if when
I
he
like
sounds as
that
he's
that
chewing,
Skarsgård
like
said
the
he wanted.
slipperiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're gonna say the same thing I was gonna say, Leo.
Yeah, that Skarsgård said, "Yo, I want to be
I
naked
want to
more
be
Even
times."
naked more.
Because
You
more.
it
want to
feels
be naked all the time.
I
because
love
it's
it.
like
I
I
love
feel
it
way
so
more
much.
gross and menacing when I'm naked as
Yeah.
Baron or whatever.
Well, I think all men
Also,
over a certain age feel that way.
yes, I think that too. Also, there are multiple stories of his sons talking about how like we didn't wear clothes when we
Yeah.
were children.
Oh,
we just walked around the house naked.
Fucking wild ass Swedes.
do
Exactly.
you think
Well,
he improvised that scene in Thor 2 when he's running around naked? They're just like, "Oh, I guess we'll just shoot this and make it look like this character's crazy," but it's just
Yeah,
yes.
Skarsgård in some
and
natural
he's
element.
On set,
he,
he just stole
he's
that fucking long
creepy.
robe.
He's creepy in a lot of the same ways that Farouk is creepy in the first season of Legion, where it's just like this
Yes.
very large man doing these unnatural things, just like floating there casually, just like
And I think it's
completely.
the fact that he's well lit and like he's filmed wide and you can see all of
Mhm.
him and it's just like why is the fat ghost floating? I hate it. I also want to point out like there was a lot of death in this movie.
Yep.
However, I can maybe recall a few drops of blood. And I thought that was a
Mhm.
really interesting choice to have like literally almost every death scene be a cutaway. And like it's just like a
Mhm.
shunk and like some squelches and like you maybe see like a drop of blood, but like the use of shields was really effective because like that was like video game logic used by a fucking big like a major filmmaker. Like blue means good, red means bad. Um
Right.
and like
Yeah,
they use that in place of like a squib shot or like blood spatter. Like if you saw someone glow red, they were either in serious danger or they were dead.
Mhm.
Um, and I also love the Baron getting close to Oscar Isaac, who I was not I forgot he was going to go out like that.
With
Um,
the
Yeah.
tooth,
with the
the
tooth,
poison
With the
but
tooth.
tooth.
being naked and completely unable to move in a
Hmm.
big giant empty dining hall was a touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then like
that
when
was
Baron
great.
Harkonnen like it's just calmly moves his finger and activates his shield in his ring finger. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, nice touch, nice touch."
Yeah.
Because everyone else was
Like,
on their wrist.
but yeah, all the violence was shown off screen, and like it doesn't become distracting. And actually, I think it made it like I said, Batista's cutting people's heads off, but you don't see a single head roll. It's just you're walking a guy swagger by, and then suddenly he turns and his hand starts swinging. Your brain fills in the rest. And then
Yeah.
like with Yue, you're like, oh, he's there to get his wife, and he's like, I said I'd free her. You can join her. And then it's like it lifts him up, and you're like, oh, well, he's fucking absolutely destroyed.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, well, I feel like it makes it more effective if you don't have to see like every little bit of their entrails coming
Yeah.
out or whatever. Like,
and then
Mhm.
Duncan Idaho's is the most violent death in the movie, and it's barely
Mhm.
anything. And so the one
Yeah.
shot of like the Sardaukor blade sticking out of his chest as he's getting back up to kick the shit out of more people worked even better.
That moment is so good.
Yep.
He's just
So
he,
I realized that, like, I guess I'm used, like, when it comes to like those big fight scenes where like everyone's like, if a guy takes out 1,000 people, it has to be super violent and like, he's like being taken by thousands. But because of the shield, it's a
hmm
little more, I guess, not complicated, but a little more specific, I guess.
It's
So
more
like, yeah,
nuanced.
Mhm.
okay, yeah, there we go, nuance. We're like, yeah, he can't take out everyone, but he's so good. Because to me, like, okay, like he says the blade has to be slow to penetrate,
Yep.
but how do you do that when you're fighting for your life and taking out multiple people? And for Duncan to be able to do that often in
Yeah.
succession, I'm just like, fuck, it works. I think if it would be anything else, I'm like, I don't know, maybe my brain is more, violently,
Well,
but I was
that
like, oh,
was
it's not as cool. But here, I was
No,
like,
but
damn, it works.
I
that
think you got a good
was. Oh,
point.
go ahead.
Like the fact that I mean, there are little things like the fact that he's a pilot. Like what you need to be a pilot is so important there. Like the kind of motion that you need to do, and like the way that the precision that you need to have, and like all these little aspects where it's like I believe that he could do that, and that he would have the control there, despite being in immense pain, and just like it's all there in his performance. And yeah, he's I think he's doing a great job.
Also, if you
What
put
are
it in the
those?
context of like what he does in that hallway, like kind of becomes like I guess like you would say like maybe like a myth because like I think the number of Sardaukor I think they believe like they say he takes down is like no one has ever achieved that yet or since. Like he takes down what was it, like
Mhm.
19 of these guys like in succession, and everyone's like, oh my, that's fucking
Something
unheard
like
of.
that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
the other thing that they translate relatively well in the new or in the 2021 Dune is that like the the Leto like his what is his house Atreides the Atreides
Atreides,
like
yeah.
they are like a badass fighting force on top of being like loved, so like they kind of have it all,
Mhm.
and that's why everybody's aligning against them. To get back to what you said earlier, Leo, about how like it's like kind of hard to understand how like he can move slow to kill the people, but like it's he has to be in a quick fight. Like if you notice when people have their shields up, like they can still get like pushed back and like kind
Mhm.
of kind of put off balance by being hit hard enough. So I think it's just a matter of like he knows exactly what to do to get somebody off balance enough to be able to like slowly put a blade into them or like
Yeah.
bring the blade up to their neck, like because you see that in that hallway fight, like he's like stunning a guy while that other guy is stunned and running into somebody. He's stabbing the next guy behind him and then killing the guy who was stunned who just ran into the other guy. So like it
I
it
might get high
works.
tonight and watch it again on the
Yeah.
TV.
Also,
Just
I think
because.
the fight choreography helps a little bit. It's
hmm
very much like they're not just slicing super fast. Like something that
Nope.
happens, and I'll call out Game of Thrones for this specifically because it's maybe the best demonstration of this. Is there are certain fights in Game of Thrones which I love, but still at like the end of a fight when they're just trying to get the scene done, it's just people slashing randomly. It's not people with any form or center to what they're doing. And this every slash has a center to it. There's a sense of this person knows that they have to slow down once they connect to get the person, to kill the person, to take them out. And it's there in the scene. So there are these natural moments where it's not just random like hack and slash,
No.
and it's like people precisely positioning the blades so they can finish the fight
Oh, and
and
there's
go on to the
also
next person.
moments where like he stops to apply pressure to a certain point. Like I think when he
Yep.
gets that dude in the ground for like kneeing him across the hallway, like he kneels down at him and with two hands pushes his blade into him because that's like it's slowly and with slightly more pressure. And like you have to like it's patience and knowledge and like all this like this level of discipline that goes into fight because you have this the element of the shield.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
really
it's
well
like the
done.
idea of like medieval times, and people were wearing like plate armor. Like there were still
Yes.
ways to kill somebody while wearing it.
And I was gonna say,
Mhm.
Game of Thrones every once in a while would show you like, oh, you can just stab someone like in that weird place where their neck meets their shoulder. It's hideous and awful and
Mhm.
painful looking, but it did happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what an entire character's entire plot is, that he's like, I don't wear armor, it slows me down, and I use that to my advantage, and that's how he knocks a man out the moon door, and so on and so forth.
Oh, Bronn,
Um,
you beautiful bastard.
yes, that gorgeous, gorgeous man. Um, uh, just
I
like,
think. Oh, I was going to say before we get too deep back into loving Jason Momoa, we should talk a little bit about Lady Jessica.
oh, she's
His
so
meme
good.
though, he put his meme in the movie. That's like top 10. You know,
Mm.
Like
his little crawling meme. His little crawling meme. I was like, yes,
like
thank you.
Lady Jessica, she what is that actress's name again? Rebecca Ferguson.
Rebecca Ferguson, yes.
She's such a good choice for that role. Like she does
Yes.
it so goddamn well,
What
and
a
I.
fucking hurricane of a woman. My God.
Mhm.
Yes.
Everything
You
like
should
every
watch the Mission Impossible movies, Connor.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
a bunch of movies just existed where and like it was kind of like when Fast was like getting more popular. I guess again, I was like, what do you mean we're all watching Fast and Furious again? That's how I feel about time Mission Impossible.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
But
but
they're
like
really good though.
yeah, that's what I've heard.
No, and
That's what I keep hearing.
I mean, she's the reason to watch more than Tom at this point. If I'm being completely brutally honest, I am watching Tom to see if this is the one where he dies on screen and they've just been hiding it. Um,
Yep.
and I'm there for her character because they've done such a good job with that character and the way that she fits into that franchise now. Um, yeah, she's so good. I mean, that's the movie where I first noticed her. But this is like such a good use of her as a performer. She has this like real insane intensity to her and everything that she does. It's why she was so good in Doctor Sleep as
Mhm.
as the
Oh,
villain
that
as
was her.
Heavy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
Rose the
was
Hat.
her.
Oh
Her as
shit.
Rose the
Yeah.
Hat was exceptional, and this is also just a perfect role for her.
Well,
There's
and
just
it's the
this
fact that she can go to
thing she
like
has to have.
she can handle a spectrum of extremes like just so effortlessly. Like in Doctor
Mhm.
Sleep, she goes from this fake but very alluring charm to this vitriolic rage. And
Yes.
then in this, like she is both like she's a she's a concubine, which is a title I'm not a fan of. Because I don't know,
Mm.
are they wives or are they just like taken
No,
women?
they're
It's like a royal thing, yeah. It's
yeah,
Okay.
like
they're the side women to the like king or emperor's
Okay.
wives.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like
It's another example of how we've circled back around. But I guess in
yeah.
this universe, if you're the child of a concubine, you're still technically eligible to be.
You're
Oh
not
well, you
you're not a
still
you're not a
if you're
snow or a sand or
if
yeah,
you're
Mhm.
if you're a male child, at least specifically like with the king, and yeah, exactly. It's not like Game of Thrones. It's like if you're a male child, like yeah, you have all the rights to the titles and everything else.
yeah. But I was gonna say she dominates the room
Hmm.
most of the movie, and then like in a couple sequences, like she sells the Reverend Mother showing up better than anybody else does because like this woman you've seen who has been, powerful and motivating and dominating every scene she's been in is now outside the room just fucking crumbling apart
Yep.
and like trying to put herself back together. Also, the Reverend Mother scene is fucking rad.
Well, that was the thing I was surprised by seeing, like the scene with the Gom Jabbar and whatnot. Like that, Lynch got it right. Like when he did it, like there really wasn't a huge difference in scene other than the acting. Like it
Yeah,
was pretty much the same thing.
I prefer Chalamet because like he's got this convincing level of like he's going to fucking explode
Yeah.
level of agony, and then like watching the turn where he suddenly starts channeling it back at her is fantastic, and just like I was sucked into that. And then like the Lynchian one is fine philosophically and like it's hitting all the
Mhm.
right points, but then when when Kyle Walker goes the pain,
Yeah.
it
it's
falls
a
apart.
heavy
And then
performance.
in
Yeah.
that scene, after he says it, like the Reverend Mother collapses, like she's just climaxed. She's like, "Ah, that's enough."
Yeah, that was their
I
mutual
need a
orgasm
cigarette.
scene. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. The Chalamet scene is just like it's stripped back. That's what it is. It's like
Mhm.
a little less. there's not like a big visual effect of his hand in there. It's just all in the performance. To what you were saying with Lady Jessica, how she's just like almost on the floor, like crumbled over. She's really great. I love that. I love the fact that like there are moments in both versions where they're just like taking things identically from the book, I assume. Like they're just taking moments from the book because they're in both. So I have to assume they're from the book. Like Leto's like speech about like, I should have married you, Jessica. It doesn't work in the Lynch version because he's just talking as he's walking down a hallway. In this version, he puts them in the same scene. He has them say the things that they want to say to each other before they die in the next sequence. And it just works so well. It gives Oscar Isaac this like noble ending and this feeling and a respect for that character before he finally passes. And when, you know, by the time you get to that moment where I don't remember exactly what he says before he dies, but when he delivers this line to the Baron as he leans over, like there's this sense of he didn't lose in quotes. He still got his last word in.
Yeah.
And I just love the way that that's played, and her performance and his performance and the way that they play off of each other as parents is just so good. I love the fact that like when she's like, I need to tell you something about Paul. He's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter what you've done to him or what he is or what he's supposed to be. He's my son, and that's all that matters. And the way that they both play that is so good. And I say this knowing that both of them do have the ability to go over the top. They can both chew scenery like the best of them. I think it works in Dr. Sleep when she fucking when she just starts like chewing on the set for moments. And I've seen him chew the scenery where it doesn't work. But they both calibrate it so well, and they're so
Apocalypse.
perfect. Well, yes.
Oh,
yes.
damn.
That's a good one. That's a good one to point out that most people have seen, where it's like, oh, you were doing a thing. It wasn't a good thing.
Fuck. I completely
You're
forgot
sure
about
acting
that.
like someone covered you in purple bullshit and said act.
While they weren't on set. Well, that's a couple fun side things that might not know. Lady Jessica is Baron Harkonnen's daughter.
I knew that.
I saw in a wiki about that, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yep.
I knew that. That's an important plot point for the daughter that they mention. In this movie, the unborn daughter.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the woman that might be her mother, there's some confusion apparently because it was said it was one person, but later on it got retconned into being, oh God, what's her name? The Bene Gesserit High Mother, whatever, that gave Paul the test. Yeah, that's supposed to be her mother.
Oh wow!
In the books apparently that's what they came to. I mean, mind you, this was the stuff written by Brian Herbert.
Oh well,
so,
that makes so much sense and feels natural.
I love that.
I would just accept it. Yeah.
I love that because of they have a scene together in this movie, and it adds this extra level. I don't know if that was intentional when they were filming it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It does add this extra level of like, there's a real uneasiness there in that scene, and like a pre-knowledge of each other that is interesting there. And when he says yes, we won't kill them or something to that effect, like it plays well. There's an interesting like a reaction that he has to her scolding. Fascinating.
Can I ask?
I forgot about that.
What the fuck is up with the what's it called the Bene Gesserits?
The Bene Gesserits.
The Bene Gesserits.
Because so many people, so like Harkonnen and everyone else are like, they're like, yeah, we won't, like we don't want to cross you or whatever. Like they keep saying, or like I don't know, like what are they?
So
I mean, Eric, you
to me, they are the Jedi Order if the Jedi Order had their fucking shit together. Like it's an order of mystics who have using their abilities to sway things politically and culturally for decades, seemingly out of like patience and very careful timing, is what it seems like to me.
I'll say this very quickly. George Lucas was definitely stealing a lot of things from Dune, and that's one of them.
the Bene Gesserit are like spies, fighters, and also really good at eugenics, because their whole thing is we need this bloodline for this, we need this bloodline for this, we need this bloodline for this. You need to go fuck that king, you need to go fuck that king, you need to go fuck that
Everybody
king.
fuck.
Right.
Exactly. And these children then need to, and that's the whole idea of how they're trying to make the Quetzalcoatl Hatterack, is by having the right gene pool mixed together. The Quetzalcoatl Hatterack. Well, that's what Paul is going to be. Yeah, that's.
Oh,
One to bring balance before the chosen one.
Is that what his vision was about?
That's him becoming the Quetzalcoatl Hatterack. Like, because,
and that's what those voices are. That I assume are like the Benny Gesserit from Far Out in Space talking to him. I don't know.
Well, he hasn't gotten to that point yet, because, I mean, I don't know if anybody cares about me spoiling things that they might have remembered from the '84 Dune and will definitely be in this new one. But the way a Reverend Mother becomes a Reverend Mother is by drinking the water of life, which is produced by produced by the sand trout.
If you can survive it, that's how you become one, right?
If you can transmute it, and what happens is every Reverend Mother, which there aren't many of them if I remember correctly, they have complete knowledge of every Reverend Mother before them. And that's why when Lady Jessica drinks the water of life when she's pregnant with Aaliyah, it gives Aaliyah all of the powers of a Reverend Mother before she's even born. So that's why she's such a terrifying thing at the end of the Lynch movie, because she's a child that has all of the knowledge of every Reverend Mother that went before her.
All right, not too many spoilers, but
I lean the Star Wars comparison because I think it's funny to think about how, like, the Jedi look at one dude, they're like, "This is it, we got him," and he's a catastrophic fuck up.
Well,
and then in this one, like, there's such careful planning over long periods of time, and like these chess moves, I love it. It's so cool.
Well, yeah,
I think it's a.
Go ahead, Arlen.
No, I was gonna say it's a good starting point because it's well documented at this point. George was just like taking all the things that he loved and like mashing them together. That's what he was doing. He's like, I love
Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon. I love Flash Gordon. I love Star Wars, or not Star Wars. I love Dune. I love Robin Hood. I love King Arthur. I'm just gonna take all these things that I love and I'm just gonna mash them together until you can't entirely see what I'm mashing together. You can see hints of what I'm mashing together. And that's what he did. And that became a gigantic hit. And that's why it works. So you can see the Dune influences, like the fact that Han is a spice trader and all that stuff. Like, it's there.
He's a smuggler, not a spice trader. All right. Get your shit together.
Well,
get your shit together.
He's mostly smuggling spice. Before Luke comes.
Have you read the books? How many books have you read, Arlen?
How many Han Solo books have you read, Harlan?
Exactly.
I've read 0 Han Solo
Leo,
books.
Don't forget, depending on when these books are from, they might not be canon anymore.
It doesn't matter. Right?
Yes, it does.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Leo is a proponent of the head canon, of the strong head canon. I don't give a fuck what the official canon camp.
Can I tell you guys something? I didn't cry, but I did like have small sobs when I read on Yahoo whatever news that like Disney's officially saying that the old canon is dead and gone, and I was like, all those characters, they're no longer existing. I'm sad, and I had like a few tears running down my cheeks.
I actually understand that.
To relate to that, like, I think people who grew up like really investing in Star Wars probably felt like a similar sense of like I guess like loss, because like I'm a Kyle Katarn dude. Dark Forces is my shit, and to me, he's the guy who got the plans to blow up the Death Star, and then they're just like, nope, never fucking happened. So yeah, I feel that sense of like.
But I also understand why they did it, just because you'd either have to recast, you'd have to recast everyone, or start with like, hey, guess what? Here's Jaina Solo, and she has to fight. Right. She's the saber of the Jedi, and it's like, what? Yeah, you mean Han Solo had two other kids and they died? What?
And to your point, I think they've done a good job of being like, well, what can we salvage? What can we? What can we bring over? Oh, Thrawn. Thrawn's badass. Well, let's just put Thrawn in everything that's not the main movie.
Darth Revan canon.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's like just
Tangentially.
put it all in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, Dune.
I was gonna say I also love the comparison because it's amusing to me to think about Anakin Skywalker being pulled in that room and just murdered instantly because they're like, "Oh God, what the fuck is this disaster you've cultivated here?" Like, no,
If the-
Gamjabar his ass and then throw him in the fucking gutter. Like,
if the if the Bene Gesserit were in charge of the
Jesus.
Jedi Order, Palpatine would have been found out years ago.
Immediately.
he would have been strangled as a
Immediately.
baby. Like,
Yes,
would've
before he
punched
was
his
even
mother off a
born.
cliff.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I'm born and I'm already evil, and then it's just like a Bene Gesserit comes by and chokes him with his own umbilical
Yeah,
cord.
imagine
no,
them
what
just
they-
walking into the Skywalker bloodline by the time it hits Ben Solo. It's like, what have you been doing?
No, what they would have done is wait until Sheev was old enough to produce viable sperm and have him knock one of the Bene Gesserit up and then kill him. Because
yeah,
then
no,
they would
you-
have everything they need from him.
Your version is perfect, actually, Eric. Yes, you're
Yeah.
correct. Like they would wait for the opportune moment to use his power against him. Like
Works
Rey
too,
would
because
grow
apparently
up
she
knowing
fucks.
she's a Palpatine. She would be like, "I'm a Palpatine now, and I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to rid your bloodline." Yeah, exactly.
I have a question about the going back to the Gamjabar.
Uh-huh.
If he had killed, they just straight up would have killed him, and that would have been it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Because like I
That
mean,
Really?
scene does a great job of selling the gravity of what Paul is to be and what he's becoming, because like they basically it's a test of like, cool, you've made this pseudo messiah. We kind of asked you not to. You were supposed to bear only girls and you gave us a boy. So now we have to like basically do a like a pop quiz of his character and nature. And yeah, like there's a whole lot of weight on that scene because like he walks in like not knowing what the fuck's going on. They're like, yeah, you could be a galactic monster, and if you kind of are from this impression, we have to put you down immediately.
oh no, see that's the thing. Like they don't know yet that he's going to become the Quetzalcoatl Haderach. Like that's that test there was to see if he's on the path to become like what they want.
Yeah, what his potential was.
Right.
I guess.
Well, yeah, and also
It was a dope
I-
scene.
Yes, it
I
was.
think you're right about them. Like, they don't want him to be a monster. I
Yeah.
mean, to use Star Wars as a reference, they don't want him to become the Emperor. They don't want him to just like become this tight.
And
this
they
tyrant.
don't want him to act on primal impulses, you know,
Mhm.
like where he's reacting to the pain and like doing something to get out of it as soon as he can, rather
Yes.
than just enduring it and seeing what happens.
Yeah, they want somebody who's willing to do bad shit, but not purely for like personal gain. Like he's doing the bad thing to stave off the worst thing is really what they
Yeah.
want, which is part of their theology.
Yeah, they're eugenics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're terrible. No, it's
Yeah.
the Bene Gesserit are they're cool as an idea, but in reality they'd be horrible people. They're just moving everything around like a giant chessboard, even more so than
Everything
like
would be an agenda. There'd be no honest action they could ever take.
Well, the only reason you like root for them a little bit is the more you learn about the navigator thing and how they just like control everything with just like this, like, oh no, you want to go against us? Oh, you just can't go anywhere. You're just stuck on your own planet, and we'll bring all your enemies to you for free to get rid of you. So yeah.
Well, that's one of the more interesting things with the navigators, and just in the books, how everybody is double crossing everybody except for the Atreides. Like when Liet Keys is there, he's talking with the Fremen, and he's the one who basically convinces the Emperor not to bring in weather satellites, because if the Emperor did that, he'd be able to see all of the sieges that they have that are filled with water. So what they're doing is they're paying the navigators in spice to not bring that stuff in. So the navigators are getting spice from everybody for everything, because that is basically what oil is in this world, is spice, because it's used for all of these crazy things. But yeah, it's the plans within plans within plans thing that goes on in these stories so much, and it's so rad.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, do we want to address the ending and how this is very much a part one movie?
It is. It feels like a part one. Yeah.
I think
I went with my brother, who knows even like less than me, and he did have a bunch of questions, and we kind of looked up, but like we both agreed that like the cliffhanger isn't bad, but like the ending of just like, oh, here's what we're gonna do. Oh, what? That's it. Like you get to see them riding the sandworm for like 2 seconds. Like, oh, you can do that. But wait.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the
okay.
only thing. So I've thought about this a lot because I don't fully agree with the people out there who are like, this was bad because I have to see another movie. Like I fundamentally on like a philosophical level disagree with that.
Yeah,
Just
that's
basically,
terrible opinion. Terrible take.
That
like
that's
I was
Matrix Reloaded and the other one, Revolutions,
right.
Yeah,
right?
and
Like
Yeah,
that's a
that's
bad
yeah.
version.
I
This
mean,
one I
I
was
was
enjoying
it,
everything.
that's
yeah,
Infinity War
exactly.
Endgame.
Exactly. Like there were people
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
with those movies. But the one thing where I'm like, the thing that they should have done, and I kind of understand why they do it here to give Leah Keenes like a good ending and a cool ending. Is I think that we should have seen somebody really like riding a sandworm and like having a
Yeah,
good time with it. And like as like a hint of what's going on. And I think it's the weak part of this ending because I really love that it ends with Jason Momoa sacrificing himself. This middle section that does go on like a little bit long, but then it ends with Paul having this like breaking point and this moment where he really finds who he has to be to survive. I really like that it's him fighting an adult man. And
hmm
something we mentioned before is I love that they make you not trust his visions completely. I love that idea
yep,
of like
Oh, that was
you
one of my
know
favorite part. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I love the idea of like you're setting up this guy to almost be like an Obi-Wan type. Like
Yeah.
he's going to be like his teacher and then you immediately kill him almost as soon as you set up that idea. And I love that. I love the fact that the visions work like that and it gives us a sense of
But he did teach him, right? Like he did teach him.
it through the visions in a weird way, and yeah, he did. Like, actually, absolutely, yes, he did teach him, just not in the way we expect. And I love that
Yeah,
that
that's
sets
dope.
up this expectation of the visions, where the visions may not be exact, but they will still give you something. There will still be value to the visions, even if they aren't exactly what you're expecting. Um, and I just love the way that that works within the story and the plot. I think that it's a good emotional ending, but again, like we said, I think that you needed to see somebody riding a worm because I think it's just a great moment to have to end this, to give it a real sense of like, oh, okay, this part of the story is over, and now we're moving into the next section. You know,
see,
to
I
use
don't.
Two Towers and Lord of the Rings just as an example, The Two Towers is a movie that I've gone back and forth on many times over the years. But I think the thing that makes The Two Towers a fulfilling ending is that there's that moment where Frodo almost gives himself to the ring wraiths and Sam saves him. If you removed that moment, that movie doesn't work. That ending doesn't work, and you're just disappointed. And you're like, well, I just want to get to Return of the King now. This sucked. But having these moments that really work emotionally is the only reason that a middle chapter or the end of like a first chapter of a two-parter works. Endgame doesn't really work if you don't have Peter turning into dust, I would say. And I think it's kind of missing that a little bit, which is why I don't hate the people who are like, this movie felt too much like a part one. But at the same time, I think ultimately this was a satisfying ending for me. And I don't think that they could have done. I don't know how else they could really do better. I couldn't imagine a better version of a Dune Part One. Um, Made now by this director, by this team, by so on and so forth. So I'll let
I
somebody else talk now.
my big thing is that I kind of wish they hadn't shown anybody riding a sandworm, like having
Sure.
Leah Keys come out with that stuff and then get killed. It hints at it if you know, but
Hmm.
My
I
brother
don't
called
know.
it. Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that a heavy part of this next Dune movie is going to be seeing Paul training with the Fremen, and
Hmm.
how much more badass would it be to have that be like one of the big action scenes in the beginning of the next movie? Like I
don't
think that would have
disagree.
had more impact than having it be at the very end of the first movie, because it wouldn't have fit in. Because I mean, yeah, they ride the worms to get around
Mhm.
Arrakis quickly and easily, but I think it's a bigger deal seeing that when you're in the beginning of the next movie that's going to be the end of the Dune, the first book. So I don't know. I think it would work better that way, but that's just me.
No, I agree. And like again, to go back to the Endgame Infinity War comparison, the opening of Endgame was going to be the end of Infinity War, and I think that they made the right choice there. So yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
oh, yeah.
I don't know. Anybody else?
Hawkeye's family dying should have been the end credit scene for Infinity War.
Oh God, you are threatening
You know what?
this podcast right now.
You know what? You know what? Actually, I'm on board with that. But I'm talking about specifically Thanos getting his head chopped off. That's where they were going to end Infinity War. They were talking about that, and they wanted to.
Oh,
end it.
really?
That seems crazy to me.
It does
Yeah,
seem
it was
crazy
such a
to me
strong-
because
it was such a strong opening for Endgame.
because when you watch it now, you're like, that's the perfect beginning to this movie.
Mhm.
There's no better way to start Endgame than with that moment of Thanos getting his head chopped off. But they were thinking of that as the beginning of Infinity War for a while until they were like, no, let's save that to the next one. So yeah, it's a hard balance, and I do agree, Eric. Like, if they're saving it for a reveal later on, absolutely, I think that's a smart choice. It's just, and this is why I'm not willing to be like, you're dumb if you hated the fact that this is a part 2, or that you didn't like that this is a part 1. I mean, if that was a problem for you, I see it. I understand it. If that was a problem, it's not a problem for me. It's not an issue for
I don't
me.
think people are dumb, but I think it's just you had to go into this movie knowing it was going to be 2 parts. Like I don't anyone didn't know it was going to be 2 parts. So it just, I don't know. You're setting up false expectations.
I wanted to end it. My brother was like, "All right, when's part 2?" And I was like, "They just announced it, greenlit today." And he's all like, "Man, if we had watched this and never got girl," he's like, "I would have hated it. I would have." He's like, "Yeah, but
right.
Oh no."
Well,
I would be like, make
had
this
any
a
of you-
show.
Had any of you seen the snippet or the interview with Denis that was saying, or Denis, whatever, that he's glad people are liking it. He's excited to make the next one, but he doesn't know if 2023 is enough time for him to do it the way he wants to do.
Take the fucking time
I
you
saw
need,
that,
Danny.
yeah.
I don't care. Take the time
Yeah.
you need. I can wait. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit. Looking back
Yeah.
at it, like again, like now they're talking about it, I'm just like, fuck. There was so much like good shit
Yeah.
I mean,
that
no,
was just like
us talking about
to
this.
push
I'm gonna
it
watch it
back-
again tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean,
the solder cars, the
Mhm.
the
The
space.
solder card.
I like their
Yeah.
I like because to me they look like astronauts, but you can't see their faces, and that's creepy.
Yeah.
And the way they
I
just
like
kind
the
of
fact
like
that they're in those
float
suits the whole
silently.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, like they like float silently, and I was like, there's nothing more scarier than like seeing them coming down, but you don't hear
Mhm.
shit. And I'm like, no, make some noise, please. All right.
Yeah, no, there's an eeriness, there's a
How dare you
ghost
be
like
so quiet?
quality to them.
Yeah, fuck it.
It's they're so creepy. Like Denny, take as much time as you need. If it needs to come out March 2024, I don't care. Just
Yeah.
do it. Just complete that second movie. I don't even need a third one. I know he wants to do a third one.
Yeah, he wants to do Dune Messiah also.
If okay, I want to ask, how
yeah.
many like books by the original author are there?
There are 6 by the original author, and then there's like
Yes.
3 that are based on the notes of Frank Herbert that were written by his son Brian, and I forget who the other author is. And then
Another
there's been
dude.
yeah, and then there's been a bunch of stuff that's like deeper like lore for the wider universe. Like there's a trilogy of
Okay,
books.
Well,
Yeah,
it's like
what-
everything. There
what
have
would
been
you want
comics,
to be
there have
covered in
been
movies?
all kinds of stuff.
Honestly, I think Dune and Dune Messiah are the too best to cover, because once you get into Children of Dune, it starts to go to some weird places, and
I mean,
So,
you need
would
I
you say
wanna.
Children of Dune isn't necessary to cover it all?
well, Dune and Dune Messiah cover the entirety of the Paul Atreides story, and I'll
Oh,
leave it
okay.
at that.
I think that's what we
Okay.
need in the films.
Yeah.
If they do a show after the fact about the later books, I think that that's the best possibility for everyone in terms of like covering
Yeah.
all of it, and
Yeah.
because I think a show gives you time. You have this material, but you have to fill in 10 hours a season.
Hmm.
Minimally, I would assume. And they can change stuff that they need to. If they need to like cut something out that doesn't work, they can cut it out. And they can add stuff that works better. And I think that there's an expectation that's lessened by putting it in a show. And I think that they could cover that stuff. I personally, knowing what I know about the stuff with Leto 2,
Hmm.
I would love to see that in a show. A show just works so much better for what they're doing, or what they would be doing. I wouldn't want to see that in a movie
No.
necessarily.
Leo, I don't know. Do you plan on reading the Dune books anytime soon?
They're definitely on the list, but again, I've bought books from like 2 years ago. I haven't read yet, so like
Yeah.
it's there, but I don't know when I'm gonna get
Okay,
to it. But yes.
because yeah, there's some real wacky shit that happens after the third Dune book, and even in the third Dune book. Like, so it starts going to some places. Like, it's like I was saying earlier in the episode. I don't think you were listening or even on yet, but like the beginning of Dune, like the first two books are an easy way to lure people in, and then it starts hitting you with like this esoteric and hard sci-fi stuff. So
Mhm.
it goes some places.
I do remember reading at some point because people talk about Dune all the time. But I do remember saying, "Oh, at one point it's like in the year 1 million or something like that," or maybe I'm
Yeah.
getting it
Oh
wrong.
yeah.
But like that, it
No.
covers years.
Mhm.
It covers eons, and
No
and
shit.
Duncan, Idaho is still around, and so is
But
Leo the Second.
Where is the sweet
okay,
embrace?
I heard of that part about the ghouls and clones and shit. So there's that.
Nigolas,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's
No,
crazy.
it gets really wacky. But yeah, I think Dune Messiah is the perfect place to end it, but it's gonna bum people out.
Damn.
And
All right.
actually, I don't even know, because a big part of Children of Dune is actually there is more Paul Atreides. I was wrong. So like it's so hard because everything is so connected that you can't really go without something.
I mean, I'll say this, Eric. If they do get to a third movie, by then it's been successful enough that I don't think we're gonna have. We're not gonna have a last. I must be much drunker than I think I am. A Last Jedi situation.
No.
I don't think we'll be there. I think the
The
audience that
best movie of
is
all
there
time?
for yeah. I absolutely agree, Luis or Leonardo. I mean,
Damn.
wow.
Damn.
I
God damn.
must be. I
Racist.
must be hammered. I must be
Racist.
fucking.
Oh yeah,
I
blame the
must
bottle.
be
You
top
gotta
10 drunk.
getting the
Um,
colors confused. All right.
no, okay. For one, your name starts with an L. I'll just say that
Oh,
in my
okay.
defense.
Okay.
And you
No,
all look the same.
it's phonetically the same. I will murder you. Honestly, in my head, I imagine a Ninja Turtle actually, so that doesn't even work.
Okay.
Because I'm sorry, whoever chose your name, they chose the name of a Ninja Turtle, and that's all I see.
No, I was named after my uncle who died young, so
I
there's that.
mean, R.I.P. him.
Was your uncle a
R.I.P.
Ninja Turtle?
No, he was a criminal,
No.
I guess.
You said that like you were so bummed, but he wasn't a Ninja Turtle.
Anyway,
I mean,
I forgot.
Yeah,
I have
Connor,
completely forgotten what I was saying. So if we
Yeah.
want to wrap it up, we can wrap it up.
Well, Connor, I wasn't sure if you had any last things you wanted to say about the 2021 version of Dune.
Fucking rules, and I can't wait for the next one. I don't care how long it takes. I do think the 2-year window is like really tight, but
Yeah, it is.
we'll see.
I mean, I believe in Denny. This is the longest time he's had between movies. There was a period there where he was putting out a movie every single fucking year. So if he can do it, he can do it. If he needs to take more time, go ahead.
I hope Warner Brothers realizes that pay Legendary so he can continue to do this, because yes, he's the perfect director for this.
Yeah.
That's all I have
Good
to say.
shit.
I'm running out of energy. I'm sure
Okay.
Hunter died a long time ago.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, I did it with my bare hands. All right. Well, do we want to wrap this up then, Connor?
Sure. This has been our Dune mega conversation. We covered various forms of the story. Trick or Trash from Boot Dumpsters almost over. But Night of the Demons is the last episode out, and then we're doing a giveaway, and then we are diving into a literal all Ghostbusters month. So next month is going to be pretty exciting. We're doing a commentary track, a watch along, and 2 episodes. So yeah, we got lots of stuff. So there's that.
Good shit.
Fun. Oh, that sounds fun, actually. LHP, we've been doing the spooky stuff. There should be an episode on Japanese horror coming out tomorrow. We discussed one of Connor's favorite movies, among others.
Fuck yeah.
I don't remember what episode we did before. Oh no, we did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first 2 films of that series. We both had a great time with that, so listen to those. We're going to be doing another one just on recent-ish horror stuff we've been watching, and then we're going to be back into Bond, and we're going to be going at it heavy until we get them all. So look forward to all of that.
So close. You're so close to being almost done with all of them.
Almost.
All right, I've been Eric Fedorchak. You can find me the Phantom Zone floating around there and probably other places. I'm on Instagram at Eric_Fedor. Pictures of dogs, a cat, and food and comics. The one thing that I discovered recently that I didn't realize about Frank Herbert, because I was always under the impression he was a bit of a teetotaler, he apparently was a fan of mushrooms. Another significant source of inspiration for Dune was Herbert's experiences with psilocybin and his hobby of cultivating mushrooms, according to mycologist Paul Stamets' account. So that makes sense. I mean, I also know that he was trained in ecology, so he knew what he was talking about when it came to all of the things that do eventually end up happening through the Dune series, which is kind of crazy.
He was a generalized nerd overall, apparently.
He never finished college. He took the classes and stuff that he was interested in, and that was what he did. Yeah.
That's why the politics are there. I'm very curious that you said Stamets, because that immediately makes me think of a character named Stamets in Star Trek who uses mushrooms to travel through space.
Oh, okay.
I have to assume that that's a reference to that guy who knows a lot about Dune. It would be a very strange synchronicity if they weren't connected in any way. I want to do Hunter's plug for him. Follow him on Instagram at youngkame_.
Of course.
Tell him about Funtas, and all kinds of. You can look that word up later. And all kinds of animal human hybrid things. So yeah, send him pictures of that, and he will love it. Yeah.
I've been
Leo, do you have any plugs?
I've been Lou Gonzalez, and
God damn it!
No, not really. I guess my Instagram LRTV_3. That's about it. Don't really post a lot, but I'll like your stories and your pictures if you want validation. Also, Paul Atreides, he took Jesus Take the Wheel a little too hard for me. That motherfucker took a nap. And I was like, he took a nap. I woke up at 500 meters in the air. If you haven't seen the movie, try imagining that. All right, that's crazy. Don't do that shit.
Oh, yeah, and a quick side note, something for people who aren't aware of this on Dune, nobody on that planet can ever leave again because they're all addicted to spice now. And if they leave, they die. So that's a fun little... Yeah.
It was also pointed out to me in a podcast I was listening to from the Last Podcast Network. that how are the Harkonnens not all addicted to spice? How are they all not helplessly addicted to it? That's a plot hole that has existed for 60 years and nobody has pointed out. So yeah,
Fucking Dune
think
sucks,
about
bro.
that.
Dune sucks.
Dune is trash now. God damn it.
The hottest it takes. That's the whole podcast leading to.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Hey!